Good morning. I welcome all of you to this presentation. It's me, Dr. Biswajyoti Bora. So we are going to talk about vomiting and antiemetic drugs. Vomiting is also known as emesis and throwing up. It is an involuntary, forceful expulsion of contents of stomach, essentially through the mouth. We will look at emetic reflex or vomiting reflex. In order to understand vomiting reflex, we need to know the brain. Here is your brain and the brainstem. And there is an area called medulla oblongata where we find the vomiting center. Here is the vomiting center. The vomiting center contains muscarinic receptors which are responsible for stimulation of the vomiting reflex. The muscarinic receptors, once stimulated, will trigger the vomiting reflex, so the process of vomiting occurs. Close to the vomiting center, there is another area called chemoreceptor trigger zone, or in short, it is called CTZ. Now, the CTZ, as the name suggests, it is stimulated by chemicals, and the CTZ contains types of receptors. These are dopamine 2 receptors and the 5-HT receptors. 5-HT is serotonin receptor, so these are serotonin receptors. It is easy to remember the CTZ as we know that the chemotherapy, which is the treatment of cancer, stimulates this chemoreceptor trigger zone. So when this CTZ is stimulated, it will stimulate the dopamine and 5-HT receptors, and then they will stimulate the muscarinic receptors, and that will cause vomiting reflex. Though CTZ is located in medulla, like the vomiting center, the CTZ is located conveniently outside the blood-brain barrier. Now, another condition called motion sickness is a very common thing people experience, and the motion sickness is caused by the inner ear, which contains a bony structure called the labyrinth. It contains vestibule in it. It is important for balance of the body. Problems in the vestibule will send electric signals to the brainstem through the vestibulocochlear nerve, and the signals will get set into specific area in the brainstem called vestibular nuclei. Essentially, this is the 8th nerve of central nervous system. The vestibular nuclei is located in the pons of the brainstem. This vestibular nuclei contains the histamine 1 receptors. and it also contains the muscarinic receptors. So when the vestibular nuclei gets stimulated during motion sickness or morning sickness, these signals will pass through the CTZ or chemoreceptor trigger zone, and then CTZ will send signals to the vomiting center to trigger the vomiting reflex. Another cause of vomiting occurs in the cerebrum or the brain. For example, as you have all known, a person is emotionally overweight, or sometimes the person is sad, then also vomiting trigger sound. When the person is emotionally overweight or upset, or the person is having pain, or a person smells something really bad, or sees something abusive or something bad, all these will be sensed by brain, the higher center of the brain, and from the higher centers of the brain the signals travel down to the vomiting center to initiate the vomiting reflex. This makes sense because some people really get nauseous when they see blood, smell some bad smell of some food. Then the higher brain centers stimulated the vomiting center to initiate the vomiting reflex. By stimulating the muscarinic receptors, as told previously. Other cause of vomiting sometimes also occur in the stomach. Let us have some recap of anatomy here. So we have the mouth that joins the esophagus, that passes through this duodenum, which is also a muscular structure, which then joins the stomach, and below which your small intestine is there. If we zoom the stomach, we find glands and deep pits lined by different types of cells. One among these cells are called enterochromaffin cells. These enterochromaffin cells secrete serotonin in response to offensive substances entering the stomach as food. This serotonin, as in turn, stimulates the nerve supplying the stomach through 5-HT receptors. This is essentially your vagus nerve that contains 5-HT3 receptors. This nerve stimulation stimulates the vomiting center to initiate that vomiting reflex, and you get emesis. In summary, all the causes of vomiting described above will stimulate the vomiting center, which is the output as vomiting reflex or emetic reflex is initiated. Let us see what happens in the vomiting reflex or what happens in the process. First, it causes lower esophageal sphincter to relax, as it is necessary to throw out the food materials inside stomach. Then the diaphragm contracts. And then the abdominal muscles contract that push the food upwards. Because of this increasing abdominal pressure on contraction of muscles, the food propels up. Along with it, we have two autonomic reflexes. The first one is increased heart rate or tachycardia. Second one is that salivation as a result of vomiting reflex. It also causes the epiglottis to close so that the food particles do not enter the lungs. So once all these things are done by the vomiting reflex, the expulsion of food happens, as that is termed as vomiting. That's all about the physiology of vomiting or the emetic reflex.